Drew McIntyre made his return to WWE on SmackDown on Friday, his long-awaited return after Monday. He quit the company, and like we said, we all knew kind of this was probably going to be the direction. McIntyre's frustration had boiled over after CM Punk cost him the World Heavyweight Championship again at Clash of the Castle in Scotland in front of his family, his friends, everyone, right? And so what does McIntyre do? He comes to Chicago, as we mentioned in a previous video, and he just destroys CM Punk. That's exactly how you would have thought it would have played out. But they did add a different wrinkle into this that really escalated this thing and added a little more meaning to this feud, which you could certainly argue maybe the best in WWE this year. And keep in mind that both of these guys have been out of action for different periods of time. Punk has been out longer since the Rumble. McIntyre was out for a little bit until he got cleared to return. But yet, the promos, the angles like this one on SmackDown on Friday, they've all continued to escalate the hatred between these two. And Drew McIntyre took it to another level on Friday because he did attack CM Punk in Chicago, but he didn't just leave CM Punk a bloodied mess in the aisleway. He left CM Punk a bloodied mess and then proceeded to take a bracelet from CM Punk's wrist. Now, if you want to know what did the bracelet say, it's very simple. What's on that bracelet? I'm sure you've seen it circulating on social media and such. As to the actual meaning behind the bracelet, well, it's pretty simple because if we pull it up here, you can tell that this bracelet does have AJ on there, which we know is AJ Lee, CM Punk's wife, and it also, as you can see, the RRY there. It's a little hard to make out the A and the L, but it also has Larry, which is for CM Punk's dog, who has gotten plenty of attention over the years based on a particular skirmish in another company. But why is this now important, and what is the meaning behind this? I think it's pretty clear that if you look at the way this whole feud has played out now, you just had CM Punk travel over to Scotland to take everything away from Drew McIntyre, and Punk said as much in the promo that he cut on SmackDown on Friday, that he was trying to basically take McIntyre's career away. He was trying to kill his career, and he did that with the 1, 2, I'm not counting the 3. That was something where McIntyre comes up short. He comes up short again, at Clash of the Castle. We've seen that happen before. And so now the frustration is boiled over for McIntyre. And what does that mean now? Well, Punk is going to get what McIntyre got. And that's what we saw here is that Drew McIntyre decides to come to Chicago. He had been embarrassed in front of his friends and his family. Now it's Punk, the one who's embarrassed in front of his friends and family and biggest fans in his building, right? At the Allstate Arena in Chicago. And not only that, though, now McIntyre is making this even more personal because he's taking a bracelet that holds the two things that CM Punk values the most, right? He values professional wrestling, but he doesn't value professional wrestling over AJ Lee, his wife, AJ Mendez, and Larry, his dog. And so, because of that, I think now you're seeing this thing get even better. And we said there was a very good likelihood that this thing was going to keep getting better because you have to get to the eventual match. And I just think this is probably, if we look at it in the Triple H era, in terms of how he's booked things and all the different angles and storylines and matches and everything, this has been one of his better pieces of work, I think. And like I said, it's what's interesting about that is that you've had CM Punk who's not wrestled since the Royal Rumble for 6 months, and yet they've still been able to pull this off and make this as good as it's been. And like we said, even if it was predictable, you were going to get the attack from McIntyre here. Even if the quitting on Raw was nothing more than a red herring to sort of send you in a different direction. Most people understood that McIntyre was not going to let this be and just run away from the fact that CM Punk had ruined his life, basically, because that's what he wanted more than anything, was the World Heavyweight Championship. And so now McIntyre is taking aim at what Punk values more than anything, and that is his wife and his dog. So I think this, like I said, just gets more and more intense in terms of the rivalry and the hatred between these two, because now Punk has to respond. And we also know that why they did this is because, we knew this probably wasn't going to be a match that was going to happen at Money in the Bank. They are likely saving this match, assuming Punk is cleared, which we would have to think at this point, if they're doing it this way, they fully expect CM Punk to be ready to go. by SummerSlam, which is a little over a month away now. And so if they're expecting that, then you've got to know that this was a way to now delay any sort of match between the two to make it think, all right, why wouldn't we just do this at Money in the Bank? Well, there's no reason to now. It gives you a little bit longer time to build towards the SummerSlam match, which we think is going to be the huge, long-awaited actual physical fight between these two in an actual match setting. So if that's the case, I thought this was a great way to have McIntyre steal something from CM Punk that Punk values so much. And it's something as simple as taking a bracelet. And remember, we're saying this because we've looked online, we've done all this stuff, and we actually know what's on the bracelet. Like I said, I had no idea what was on the bracelet until I started looking online. I'm sure people have known maybe in the past, maybe it's been visually very clear, but no clue. But as you look at it now and you see, okay, now it makes total sense, right? Because the average person watching, if they're not out seeking, what is this? That gives you a nice cliffhanger to see what's coming next. Like, why did Drew McIntyre take that from CM Punk? What was the meaning behind it? And now that we know, it just makes total sense. And I think it just adds another great element to this feud because the personal rivalries, right? We always talk about like the ones you go way back in. If you're a longtime professional wrestling fan like myself and you go way back, the feuds you remember the most are the ones that got so personal. And, I mentioned even in a video I did, probably a couple months ago now. Like if you look back at like that Jake the Snake Roberts, Randy Savage feud, it got so personal back in the early 90s. And it was because, these two, it involved family. It involved all this other, and you're seeing those same elements here. And certainly we've seen, in a different aspect, the whole thing with the bloodline and Cody Rhodes building to that, like Rock pointing out family, Reigns pointing out family, all this stuff. Like that is the stuff that makes this so easy is because what one person values. And CM Punk, his wife. Now, McIntyre's bringing AJ Lee into this. That's when business is about to pick up, to borrow a line from the one and only Jim Ross. Because, that's just something where could AJ Lee have some involvement? Could we, in any way, shape, or form? I'm not saying she's going to wrestle. I'm not saying she's going to, do it. But could that be something that's sort of a tease here to where now you kind of have to mention it? You have to mention the importance of this bracelet and why CM Punk is so pissed off whenever we see him again and why this was so important to him. Because like I said, it's not just everyone's going to be seeking this out, on Twitter, on social media and everything to find out exactly what it meant. Not the entire audience is going to do that. So this gives you a way to bring her into this. And we know she's been mentioned before, since CM Punk returned, but this makes it a lot more fascinating because now it is something where she is somewhat indirectly now involved in this whole situation because Drew McIntyre took it to that level. He decided that he wasn't just going to kick CM Punk's ass. He was going to kick his ass and then take a bracelet that had a lot of meaning to him. So I think this is, like I said, just a very, very well done feud to this point. And I think the match is going to be worth the payoff because you've got both of these men who have taken it to the extreme, not ECW style, but taken it to the extreme in terms of what they've gone after. Punk went after what McIntyre seemed to value most. That was becoming the world champion and also becoming the world champion in front of, his people, right? And now you've got McIntyre taking everything away from Punk. Just when we think Punk's about to be cleared to return, McIntyre puts him in a situation where he gets stretchered out. There's no way he's going to be cleared after getting stretchered out. And also, he brings the family into it. So this is great. This is professional wrestling. This is what I like. And I'm sure that a lot of people would feel the same way. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about this big angle on SmackDown. What I think, we didn't do a full SmackDown review. I thought this was one of the best SmackDowns that Triple H has probably ever had, in all honesty, from start to finish. And we could certainly go into all the other things we wanted, but this was one of the reasons because this was something that had sort of the payoff that they'd been teasing with Drew McIntyre. When is he going to get his revenge on CM Punk? It's hanging out there. We know it's in Chicago. They pointed you in the direction to sort of expect this, but you didn't know how they were going to do it. And certainly, we didn't know Drew McIntyre was going to take this thing to another level by adding the personal family nature to this involving AJ Lee and Larry the dog. So you guys let me know what you think about this angle with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. What you think about SmackDown overall. I always love the discussion, always love the feedback. So let me know what you think. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on your way out. Lots more videos here on the channel looking at different things within this feud already, Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. And now we wait to see what Punk's response is, when that will happen, and what will Drew McIntyre have to say now that we know he has gotten the one-up side now on CM Punk, to where Drew McIntyre seems to be in control of this thing. So, again, guys, I appreciate you watching. Let me know your thoughts on Drew McIntyre stealing the bracelet from CM Punk.